My name's Alix Lewer. I'm the founding director of the Include project, which is made up of include.org and the Include Choir.
What exactly is the Include project? What do you aim to do?
It's a good question. The Include project was set up to try and make the world more welcoming for people who find understanding or speaking difficult. And that could be any number of us, and probably more of us than we think. The official stats from the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists is that 1 in 5 of us at some point will have a significant communication problem in our lives. Some of us might have it all the way through our lives, so people with learning disabilities or autism or stammers or developmental difficulties may have problems with communication right from the word go. Others of us might acquire them through a stroke, dementia, a brain tumour, Parkinson's, any number of conditions. And so it's a big chunk of the population, and yet it's something we hear very, very little about in my experience. It's not a disability which is easily recognised, it's quite hidden, and it's not necessarily one that people feel very knowledgeable about how to support or how to engage with. So I was a speech and language therapist. I'd worked in the NHS for 10 to 12 years. And I wanted to try and make a lot of the work that I did more visible, I suppose, really.
When did you set up the organisation?
We started with the choir, so the Include choir was the very beginning, and that started in May 2016 when I was on maternity leave after the first birth of my first son. So I was on leave from the NHS where I was a safeguarding adults lead at the time. But it was something that had been in my head for absolutely yonks, to be honest. I'd been thinking about it for a really long time, and it was just the first time I'd really had space to sort of see whether it could happen. So yeah, we started with about 16 of us, I think. The first session might have been fewer than that, actually. None of us quite being sure what it was all about. And now we've got over 70 members on the books. So we're growing. We've just moved to a bigger venue because we couldn't fit in the old one.
So you've got 70 members. That's all ages, is that?
Yeah, we're an adult choir on the whole, although 16 and upwards can join with parental consent, or younger if parents come along. The clue's in the name, really, with the Include choir, so we want people to be able to come along. But it was really set up for adults because I was working with adults with learning disabilities for quite a while, and a lot of people were telling me they didn't have anything to do in the evening. They loved music. There wasn't anywhere for them to go where they could enjoy that outside of day services and things like that. So it was really set up with adults in mind. So most are aged between 18 and 60 odd, I think. But it's a choir for people with and without disabilities. That's really important. I felt, and again, a lot of people said to me that they met other people with similar sort of challenges to themselves, but didn't meet a lot of other people in the community, or didn't feel very confident to chat with other people with other interests. And I thought, actually, at the end of the day, music is music, and we all love music in whichever form. So why can't we all come together and do it together, regardless of the challenges?
It's a social thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I wanted to join, I mean, I don't have a communication issue, at least not that I'm aware of. I could still join?
Absolutely, yeah.
And do I have to have a singing voice?
No, we're very inclusive. There's no auditions. Everybody's welcome. We're much more about passion and soul than we are about perfection, because, to be honest, that's what's important. And that's actually what I love about it, is that a lot of the people that do have maybe some challenges that people might perceive as making them different or making them, other in some way. Actually, when it comes to the singing, they've got a heck of a lot to teach a lot of the people who don't have disabilities about just wholeheartedly enjoying themselves and just having a fantastic time.
I think sometimes it's different circumstances can help people's communication needs, because I know, this is going back many, many years, when I used to do hospital radio, we had one young lad who joined the hospital radio, and he had this stamp, and we thought we're not going to be able to put you on air. But I'll tell you something, you put him in front of a microphone and that stammer disappeared.
It's amazing,
and
isn't
it? It's just one of those. It's also the singer, who is the late singer now, Chris Rainbow, who did these wonderful bits of music, but he had a stammer and couldn't string two sentences together. But what he did in the studio with his voice musically, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely.
Music's a form of communication which I think goes far deeper than any other, and I think it can bridge communication difficulties sometimes. My father had a brain tumour, and he had he lost the power of speech basically as a result of that. And bizarrely, and he was never a singer, despite a Welsh background, he wasn't a singer. But even when he couldn't get any words out, even his yes and no became really problematic. But he could still sing. For some reason, he could still sing. I think it was those boots were made for walking. For some reason, was the thing that kept coming back. And he could get those words out. And equally, I could sit at the piano and I could sing and we could connect in a way that we couldn't through a conversation at that time. And I think that's probably, it's part of the reason I'm a speech therapist, it's part of the reason behind the choir, it's just seeing that firsthand was really powerful.
When it comes to communication methods, I was reading on your website that you were talking about Makaton. I've heard of the word, but what does it mean? What is
right,
it?
So, yeah, you've absolutely put your finger on it. We're an inclusive communication choir. So another aim of the choir, as well as the social opportunities and the connections, is to make people more aware of the different communication methods that can help people who find understanding or speaking difficult. And one of the ones we use, probably the most obvious, is Makaton Signing. Makaton it's not a language in the way that British Sign Language is a language, but it's based on BSL. So a lot of the vocabulary of the hand signs are very similar or are based on it. So if you learn Makaton, actually, you're making a good stab at learning some BSL, which is another way of building bridges. But it was set up in 1970, I think. 1970 odd was... it was invented by a couple of speech and language therapists and a teacher. It was with people with learning disabilities and cerebral palsy, I think. And the idea was to find a way for people who found speech difficult to find a way to get their communication across, but in a way that was less complicated than BSL. And the idea was also to aid the development of speech. So you speak at the same time as you sign. You use the same sign as the word that you're saying, and you only sign the key words. So you're not trying to do all the grammar and all the complicated thing. It's all about getting your message across. And as I say, it's very, very useful. I mean, it's fantastic results for children who are struggling to learn to speak. There used to be a fear that, if they sign, they'll never learn to speak. And actually, all the research has shown the exact opposite is true. Because once you've got the hang of the fact, if I do this, somebody responds to me, suddenly a whole world opens up, and it's a fantastic tool. But one of the things I think, another reason for us using it is when I was a speech and language therapist working with adults with learning disabilities, we didn't see it used an awful lot in adult services, residential services, day services. And you'd hear, they don't need it, they can talk, or, they're not a signer. And I would be really interested to know how many of us would use a language that we didn't see around us all the time. And what we found, that was a lot of people had used it at schools and at colleges and had got really proficient, both in using it themselves to express themselves, but also, really crucially, it would help them understand the message that was being spoken to them. About 85% roughly of people with learning disabilities have problems processing the spoken word. So just speaking to someone is actually asking quite a lot, because once a word is gone, it's gone. It's no longer there to work out what's being said. But if you use a sign at the same time, you're giving someone a visual representation as well as an auditory one. You can hold that sign for a while so you can give someone a bit more time. And you're basically aiding them to make sense of the conversation. Also slows down your speech, which for someone like me is very valuable. You can tell I'm not signing at the moment because I'm talking too quick.
So presumably when one sees on the television with the news or whatever, someone doing the sign language, they are really just not doing every word. It's the key words of what's being said on the screen.
Well, often on the TV it's actually BSL, so if you watch that, the words wouldn't necessarily be in the same order as the person speaking them. But if I was to Makaton sign along to that, it would just be the key signs, absolutely. And that's what we do with the songs. We work out what's important and we make sure that bit of the message is communicated.
The other thing which I noticed on your website, you were talking about other inclusive communication techniques. What are those? Well,
a lot of it is visual, not all of it, because a lot of our members do have visual impairment as well. But it's all about making the message as easy to understand as possible and to reduce what we call cognitive demand. So making it as less stressful as possible for people to understand. So pictures are really great because you can look at a picture for a while. So we use PowerPoints as well when we have our rehearsals. So we break up the rehearsal, people know what to expect on the PowerPoint. We use visual timetables. So I'm not very good actually at remembering the visual timetable, but if we have people who are highly autistic, it can be very challenging if you're not quite sure where you are in the proceedings. So once we finish the warm-up, we take away the warm-up sign so people know that's done. Once we finish the singing and it's break time, we take away the next sign. We use some diaries which help people keep track of when our events are happening, because time is really tricky for a lot of people with understanding or speaking difficulties. So we have stickers that we put in our easy read diaries to help people keep track. We use something called talking mats, which is a really good reflection tool. It's not as fancy as it sounds. It's a doormat with some symbols, but it works very well. And we use objects as well. So for our people with a visual impairment who don't want to play percussion, which is often what they bring to the choir, we also have, or for people with more profound learning disabilities, we have an object of reference, as we call it, for the song, so that they know which song's coming up, and then they can hold whatever it is, which can be reassuring and can help communicate what the song's about to the audience and to the rest of the choir.
So moving on to the choir, you say you've got about 70 members.
Yeah.
Do they all take part in the sing along, if that's the right word for it?
Yeah, in different ways, yes. So we've got some members who you would term non-verbal, so they don't use words to communicate. Got one particular member who's very vocal, so she has a lot to bring with her sounds, which are very enthusiastic. So she brings a lot that way. We have other people who just like listening. We have other people actually who we thought just like listening and then suddenly realised, Matt, who's been here for a few months, did you know he was singing along and he knows all the words? Is he? Oh, blimey, I didn't know that. And so we see quite a lot of change as people sort of join us and get more confident. Yeah. And
what kind of music do they sing to?
It's a mixture. We started off with your pop standard classics. So we try and choose songs. We encourage our members to help choose, but ones with messages which help communicate the message that we're all about. So favourites are Wonderful World, Lean on Me, Get By With a Little Help from My Friends, Lovely Day, things that have quite a positive message. But actually we now write quite a lot of our own songs as well. And we started doing that because I'm a Makaton tutor, and so the Makaton charity publishes a sign of the week each week, which it shares on social media. And I thought, well, I should be sharing this as well. That's a good way to disseminate the information that's out there. I thought, if I'm doing that in a choir, I should be doing it in song, really, shouldn't I? So I started off trying to think about a song that had the sign of the week each week. And they set me some challenges over the years. So museum was particularly challenging. Recycling was another. And over time, I was like, there just aren't any songs with these in, so I'm going to have to write them. So I started sort of writing silly little warm-up songs. Museum one was quite funny. It was about dodos and things. And then gradually we started thinking, well, how can the choir get more involved in this? And this year they've had this the name of the month as one of the signs each month. And so we started asking the choir, well, what does this month make you think of? So we had the symbol and a picture up there. And our volunteers supported people to either draw, speak, share, point to what the month made them think about. And then we took it away and made that into a song. And so we learnt that song. So we've now got 10 months of a month song. We're in the middle of writing an autumn one. But we've also written songs about things that are really important to our members. So kind was one of the signs of the week, and we were talking about what kind means, and somebody said, well, kind communication is what we're all about. I was like, yeah, actually that's a really good description of what inclusive communication is. It doesn't mean doing anything fancy. You don't have to learn Makaton, although it's great if you do. You don't have to have a picture to hand, but it's about taking a little bit of time, thinking about how somebody else might be feeling, sharing a smile, and basically being kind and empathic. And so we thought, well, we'll write a song about that. So we've now got a kind communication song, a butterfly song, which is about changing things no matter how small you are, and a mental capacity act song, which is our most requested one at conferences. We sing that at a lot of conferences to help people understand their rights. So yeah, pretty much anything we can write a song about, we reckon. We've yet to be beaten.
Okay, now you meet every week, and you get together, you learn songs, you have a sing song. Do you take it any further than that? Do you go and do performances?
We do. We've actually reached the stage which, if somebody had said this to me when I started the choir, I would have laughed in their face. But we now are having to turn down 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 performances a term because there's only one include choir at the moment, and we just can't get to all the places. So we were invited to sing in Newcastle Cathedral last year, but we couldn't work out to get there. We were invited to sing in Birmingham NEC for an advocacy conference this year. We haven't got the funds or the resources to get us there, which is a shame. But having said that, we have performed at the Barbican, singing songs that were part of a national project for choirs. We sang at an NHS England conference about the inequalities of healthcare for people with learning disabilities. We sang at advocacy conferences. We sang at Run Reigate. Lots and lots of local events, but quite a few up in London and up as far as Oxfordshire, I think, has been the furthest we've gone.
And your members enjoy the fact that they get out to perform in front of an audience?
I think so.
They're not fazed by that?
No, I mean, we have more different members perform at different events, and some are more comfortable performing than others. We've got a core who are fantastic, who are pretty pro about it, and again teach our members who don't have disabilities in inverted commas quite a lot about how to perform, I think. What we do find, sadly, is that we have quite a number of members who would like to perform, but they have restricted support services or whatever, so they're not able to come along as often as they would like, and that's just one of the realities of the landscape at the moment. And actually, a lot of our members who don't have disabilities actually find it harder to get along if we're singing during the week and things. So it's a kind of mix and match. We never quite know who's coming to any given event, and I think we've had anything between, I think 10 has been our smallest group, to about 35 has been our biggest in one place at one time.
And when your next performance?
We've actually got an open big sing happening on November the 6th. So that is an open invitation to members of the community, support staff, families, friends, anyone to come and join us. The mayor's coming along so we can teach him how it works. And we're just inviting people to come along to St John's Church in Redhill, up on the hill, and come and join us and see what it's all about. And then it'll be into Christmas, I think.
And what are your plans for the future with the organisation?
We've got a lot of plans, actually. And to be honest, if there's anybody out there listening who would like to volunteer, we've reached a stage where our volunteers are brilliant. We've got quite a lot of volunteers who come along on the days, but we always need more for the rehearsals and for the performances. We also desperately need people to help us out behind the scenes with any sort of admin related jobs, because there's more and more as we develop. And our big plans at the moment, we're looking at the possibility of franchising or some sort of franchise model of the choir. We've had quite a lot of interest from different areas, actually from schools, different places in the country, saying, is there an include choir near me? Can I come and join one? I was like, actually, we haven't got one yet, but we're working on it.
So there aren't similar choirs in other parts of the country that you're aware of? We
are the one and only. There are other Makaton choirs, but none that exist with quite the same aim as us. And a lot of them are set up for people with disabilities, but not to be a community choir that is open to everybody, as far as we know. If we're wrong, do let us know, come and tell us, and we'll come and have a sing with you, because we'd love to meet you. But it seems that we're pretty much the only one at the minute.
So there is interest in other parts of the country for setting up similar types of choirs? Absolutely.
There's been interest in setting them up, interest in joining them, and interest in having them perform. So we're just now working on the funding and the resources. We need to have more funding and more staff. We're a largely volunteer-led organisation. We have 2 very part-time members of staff, and the rest of us are volunteers. And obviously that's, in the long term, it's not really a sustainable situation, much as we love our volunteers and love what we give of them to actually really grow. We're trying to set this up as a business, as a charity, but as a charity which can employ its staff. So that's one of our aims, is to actually start employing some more people to enable us to set up a franchise. We're also looking at a friends and members scheme, so that people who like what we do can pay a little bit each month and then get some sort of VIP passes to our performances, get some inclusive communication resources that they can use. And then the last bit of the puzzle is an e-learning package that we're putting together around our Mental Capacity Act song. We're very lucky to have some corporate support around doing that in December and January. So I think we may be the first ever musical e-learning package. We're not sure, but we haven't found one yet. yet. We're not quite sure what it's going to look like.
So again, but presumably if you develop that e-package, that's something which you could potentially sell to other organisations. So
it's all about trying to make us more sustainable. Yeah.
So the effort you're putting into creating that will have broader benefits.
That's what we hope, and what we realised when we started singing about the Mental Capacity Act. I mean, the Mental Capacity Act is basically a law which says if you have problems understanding something, nobody can just tell you cannot understand this because you've got autism, a learning disability, dementia, Parkinson's, whatever it is. Nobody can just dismiss you on that basis. And they then are legally obliged to help you understand the decision that you have to make, whether it be a medical one, a financial one, about where you live. But the reality is, as a safeguarding lead, I saw this, as a speech therapist, I saw it, people don't know how to best help people understand, and often they talk at them at length, which actually doesn't really help anybody make a decision at the end of the day. So, and we realised as well that a lot of people hadn't never heard of the Mental Capacity Act, so their rights, they didn't know that they had rights around being helped to understand. So we started the song as a way of helping to teach our members understand what it is, make people more broadly aware, because any one of us might need it one day. You know, if I get hit by a bus, heaven forbid, I might be in need of it. If a family member develops dementia, they might be in need of it. So it's something I think we should all be aware of. But it's one of those things which sounds really scary. So we thought, well, if we can write a song about it and we can help our members understand it, surely we can help everybody understand it. So we want to make it as broadly accessible as possible, help people with learning disabilities understand, help the support staff, help the families, because that's a difficult thing for families to understand. If you've looked after someone for 18 years and suddenly someone's going, well, the law says it's not your responsibility anymore, that's really hard. So, yeah, we hope it'll do some good. We hope it'll bring some revenue into the organisation, and as with everything we do, it's generally a lot of fun putting it all together.
As a charity, how are you funded?
We started off with £1,000 from East Surrey Mencap, bless their hearts, who were our first ever sponsors. And that to me felt like a huge amount of money at the time. I'd never run a charity before. I'd worked in the public sector where the taxpayer very kindly funded what I did and I didn't have to think about money. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. I can do this for ages. And then I discovered that actually it takes quite a lot of money to run a charity, for our venue, for our licensing, for our insurance, for the few staff that we do have. It takes a lot of money. So I started applying to trusts and foundations. We are very generously funded by the People's Health Trust at the moment and the Community Foundation for Surrey. But one of those grants comes to the end at the end of this year. It's been marvellous, but we've been applying for more trusts and foundations grants. Unfortunately, an awful lot of people at the moment are doing exactly the same, because it's a terrible time to be running a charity. It's a really daft time to set one up, if I'm honest, because local government funding's been cut, central government funding's been cut, and a lot of the commissioning has been cut by the council. So I know that a lot of services that used to be paid for by the council are now having to go for the trusts and foundations. So we are still looking at the trusts and foundations, but we are also looking to develop any corporate relationships that we might. Red Hill Business Guild says within its ethos is about being an inclusive place to live and work. So we're hoping that there might be some of the Red Hill Business Guild businesses might think, well, maybe we can get some training for our staff in exchange for some financial or in-kind support. You know, we're developing our community fundraising strategy, but to be honest, we're looking for funding from anybody who might feel, I think that's a brilliant thing to do. I wouldn't mind giving you a little bit to help you do what you do.
So it's not just from trust funds and grants and things like that, but it's also you're looking at commercial sponsorship as well.
Commercial sponsorship, individual donations, and of course we're trying as hard as we can to develop some revenue driving of our own through the e-learning and through whatever resources and membership funds we can sort of put together. So yeah, we're not proud. I think it's early days for us. We've been registered as a charity since 2018, so we're only just over a year old, which is challenging for us for trusts and foundations. So if people do believe in what we do, please do support us any way you can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Alix Lewer, thank you for joining us on Surrey Sound.